once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over Live. Since late August, my next guests have been investigating how the monies you contribute to the Catholic Campaign for Human Development is spent. They turned up a series of groups being funded by the bishops who are undermining Catholic values and working in opposition to Catholic teaching. To share some new details, we're joined by Rob Gasper of Bellarmine Veritas Ministry and Michael Hichborn of American Life League. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
Good to be with you.
Now, they are part of the Reform CCHD Now Coalition. Now, I want to get into this immediately. You had this report in August, which listed a number of groups that you thought, your research revealed, were objectionable and that the Catholic Campaign for Human Development should not be funding. The bishops responded, Bishop Morin, and he sent an October 2nd memorandum. This has been going around to many, many, many of our viewers, I know, who've been emailing and sending me copies of this. What it says here is that they've responded to your report. It says here, they list a whole group of organizations, and I'm going to run through them quickly. The Chinese Progressive Association, which was supporting abortion and homosexual marriage, they have been defunded. The Rebecca Project for Human Rights, they signed a wish list for reproductive priorities. They have been defunded. The Young Workers United, they have been defunded. And Bishop Morin says here, he lists these groups and he says they've already been defunded by CCHD as a result of national and local staff oversight. Why doesn't that satisfy you?
Well, in the first case, two of the 5 initial grantees that were in my first report from the Bellarmine Veritas Ministry were actually not defunded. Bishop Morin defended those, saying that we had some sort of misunderstanding in our, or that we had incorrect information in those cases. Those 2 organizations are the Los Angeles Community Action Network, LA CAN, and also the Women's Community Revitalization Project.
Okay. And tell me about those 2 groups. Tell me about this LA Community Action Network. What did you find there?
Yes, we included those in our first report because that group had, in their newsletter, stated that they were proud of their workers who had worked in support of, or actually against Proposition 8, which was in California, which was against homosexual marriage. So they were actually in favor of homosexual marriage in that case. Also, they have partnered with a group called the Downtown Women's Action Center, I think DWAC, if I've got the letters correct. And that group runs a clinic which provides family planning, emergency contraception. And in their newsletter, they state that, in their newsletter, they promote this clinic for their newsletter readers. And that concern has not been addressed at this point.
Mike Hichborn, tell me about this other group, the Women's Community Revitalization Project. This was also pointed out in August. They have not been defunded by the Bishops' Conference.
That's right.
Why not?
Well, initially, the funny thing is that the Women's Community Revitalization Project was listed with Women Vote PA. They were a coalition partner with Women Vote PA, which is a very solidly pro-abortion organization. Well, shortly after his report came out, their name disappeared from the coalition list. And so I assume that that's why Bishop Morin believes that there was nothing wrong with them. However, just a very brief overview, just looking around on the internet to see what else they've been involved with, they received a $16,400 grant from Women's Way Community Women's Fund, which says that they only fund fully pro-abortion organizations. So how Bishop Morin or how the CCHD missed that is kind of beyond me. Obviously, the Women's Way Community Fund is going to do their homework, so I don't know how that slipped through the CCHD's screeners.
Okay, I want to back up for a minute because you all have new information that you want to share with people tonight. But I want to back up for a moment, Rob Gaspar. First, who are you? Where have you come from? And who is funding this Bellarmine Veritas Ministry that you head up?
Who is funding the Bellarmine Veritas Ministry? My own wallet. It is a group I founded on August 15th of this very year. I think I've put in about $50 of my own money as far as opening a website. There is no one funding my organization. We have not received any donations.
None whatsoever?
None whatsoever.
Okay. So you're just a layman who felt that there needed to be some scrutiny of these grants?
Yes, that's correct.
And Mike, your role? You're with American Life League.
That's correct.
And you've always been policing and watching these grantees. I know Judy Brown has been interested in this for a number of years.
Yes, Judy Brown's been following the CCHD for a while. when Rob's reports initially came out, it was so shocking that I contacted him. We started talking about what was going on, and so then we started working together and investigating some of the other groups, and what we found was even more shocking. So
let's look into the newest information you have to share with us, and I want to start with this Voces de la Frontera. This is a Wisconsin group, a $50,000 grantee from Catholic Campaign for Human Development funds. Let's also tell people, what is the Catholic Campaign for Human Development? We see this fund every year around Thanksgiving. What is it designed to do?
Well, according to their website, the mission of the CCHD is to fund organizations trying to get to the root of poverty, or the root of the problem of poverty, through community organizing and through what they call transformative education. They also say that they will not fund any organization that is involved in direct services, like daycare centers or soup kitchens or that kind of thing.
But nonetheless, what you have discovered is that many of these groups are actually subverting the Catholic
Absolutely.
teaching.
Absolutely.
So on one front, you've got bishops trying to defend marriage in a given state. Meanwhile, the same conference is funding organizations that are fighting against those efforts. Let's talk about this Voces de la Frontera. This is in Wisconsin, $50,000. What did they do?
Well, they have an October 2009 newsletter which actively promotes this gayneighbor.org organization.
What is that?
Well, it's kind of gross, and I'd
well, then don't get
rather
into
not
it. I don't
describe
wanna
it.
hear it.
Yes.
But the thing of it is that they're an ally group or an ally with a group called Equality Wisconsin, and so they were promoting this gayneighbor.org on behalf of Equality Wisconsin in their newsletter. So why they, I don't know.
So you see a
I can't get into
conflict
why,
there.
but
You see a conflict there between the
absolutely,
Catholic teaching and what they're doing. Rob, there's this other group, Preble Street in Maine. This group got $30,000. These are $30,000 of your contributions, by the way, that come from that contribution each year.
That's correct. We included Preble Street in our second report, some of which you had spoken about last week with Mobilize Immigrant Vote. But Preble Street, I found them initially on their old website earlier this year. They've since revamped their website, and it's no longer on there, but I do have the screen cap on my website, where they operated a day shelter, and they stayed on their old website that 21 health and human service agencies come and provide family planning services for the people that come to that clinic. And also, there was that recent Maine initiative, and they joined a coalition called, Preble Street did, called No on One, Protect Maine Equality. And this was a coalition in order to maintain same-sex marriage in Maine.
Now, here's what I want to know. What is the Catholic Campaign for Human Development saying to you? I see what they're sending to many of my viewers who are complaining or upset about this or worried about this after your report hit in August. They're basically sending Bishop Morin's memo around, but they haven't responded to these newly unearthed information.
We have not received information back yet from them at this time. Hopefully they will respond.
Now, a source of mine tells me, and I just got this the other day, that they have from someone at the conference. They have reached out to you. Are you in contact with the Catholic Campaign?
Actually, yes, that is the case. They're in contact with my ministry, Bellarmine Veritas Ministry.
Yeah.
They will not speak with my other coalition members at this time for whatever host of reasons they have.
So are they trying to address the problems? Can you talk about this at all?
Yes, we have held initial discussions. I've had an initial phone conference with some of the members, staff members of the CCHD and the Department of Justice and Peace. I think, I'm hopeful that they'll address some of our concerns and put some of the necessary reforms in place. But as of yet, we have not, we have not come to a definitive agreement at this time.
What is this coalition asking for, Mike? Before we reveal these new details, and they have just unearthed some new grantees of Catholic Campaign for Human Development funds, and we'll share those with you in a moment. Mike, what is your coalition asking for now?
Oh, we're asking for a complete and total reform of their grants writing process. They claim that they have a rigorous screening process. Ralph McLeod, in an interview, said that they first investigate the group after it gives its initial application, and then they sit down and they talk to the group. Then it goes back to the national committee, and they talk about it, and then they go back to the local bishop, and they say, well, here are our findings. The local bishop signs off on it. So apparently there are a whole lot of eyes that go across these different organizations. But that's the real problem, is how are these groups getting through the cracks? And so what we are calling for is a complete and total reform of their grants writing process with absolute transparency. I want to know exactly what steps they took in order to figure out whether these groups are worthy of Catholic dollars or not.
And what are you asking people to do in the meantime?
In the meantime, at the Reform CCHD Coalition on our especially our website, www.reformcchdnow.com, we have a coupon that people can print out that they can place in the collection basket on the day of the collection, November 22nd, where they can say they're joining us in this call for the CCHD to actually reform their grants process. And until that time, they won't contribute to the CCHD, but instead give to a more
So
worthy...
you're asking people to boycott the
Absolutely.
contribution, the Catholic Campaign for Human Development
Absolutely.
In effect, yes, that's
drive
correct.
this upcoming week.
That's right.
But when I speak to CCHD directors across the country, they tell me boycotts don't work. They say these boycotts don't work. You believe differently. Why?
Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens on November 22nd. However, the fact that they've come and reached out to me now shows that this is working at this point.
Well, you have the data. I imagine this data is credible, or they wouldn't be responding and canceling these the funding.
And can I interject with one thing here?
Yeah.
It's not just that we call for reform or anything. There's a moral issue at stake here. When you're talking about grantees being funded that promote grave evils, I don't think Catholics should contribute to those. And that's what we're talking about here. It's not so much some sort of political game here.
Right.
It's that there's grave evils being promoted, and Catholics should be made aware of that and make a conscientious decision whether or not they want to fund that.
I want to go to the lines here. Carrie from New York. Very quickly, Carrie, what's your question?
Hi, Raymond. I received a response to my letter from Bishop Murphy. I live on Long Island, and I just want to read you the last part of it because I know you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
It is not true that they support abortion, same-sex marriage, or contraceptives. This is once again another example of why you should not trust the news stories on EWTN. It is not a good source of Catholic information.
All right. Well, let me respond for a moment there, Carrie, and then I'm going to throw it to these gentlemen. First of all, I would point whoever wrote the letter or sent it in the bishop's behalf. Bishop Morin's memorandum of October 2nd clearly says here that these groups were defunded, which had already been defunded by CCHD as a result of national and local staff oversight, was found to be in support of abortion rights. I didn't write that, Bishop Morin did. Let's get into some of this new information that is emerging. Now, no one has heard this yet. This is new information that the gentlemen are announcing on the program this evening. Tell me about the Intercommunity Justice and Peace Center in Ohio. $25,000 was given to this organization at a time, I might add, when Catholic schools are closing in inner cities, when Catholic hospitals and so many soup kitchens and things are really having very difficult times. We're spending 25 grand on a group like this. What did they do? Who are they?
Well, the Intercommunity Justice and Peace Center, I just want to say right out the bat, their founder, who is no longer with them, was silenced by Bishop Pilarczyk for advocating for the priestly orders for women. But just to let you know what they're involved in, listed on their website as Friends and Colleagues.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Now, which is the National Organization of Women, Equality Cincinnati, which is a pro-homosexual transgender organization, Greater Cincinnati Women's Resource Center, which is a pro-homosexual organization, PFLAG, which is
now, Mike,
pretty gross.
let me cut you off just for one moment. A lot of the Catholic Campaign for Human Development directors I've spoken to over the last few days, they would say, you are trying to convict these people by casual contacts. These are nothing more than organizations they're affiliated with. This is like saying you ran into, Saddam Hussein's brother on the way home from work, and therefore you're guilty. Guilt by association.
Guilt by association, but if I was talking to Saddam Hussein about how to organize a community, then the Homeland Security Department would be at my doorstep.
Okay, good enough. Let's talk about this Massachusetts Community Labor United. They got a $30,000 grant in Massachusetts. What is your beef with them?
They joined a coalition. Now, I just want to say this is how these organizations work. They get money from the CCHD, and then they join these coalitions. And through these coalitions...
These are more community
yes.
organizing groups like Acorn, which
yes.
the bishops defunded about 3 years ago after, what, $7 million plus?
$7 million, yeah, that's right.
In donations from Catholics. Go ahead.
They joined a coalition called Cure CVS Now. This coalition, their initiative is called Unlock the Condoms, and it's all about trying to get the CVS the business to make it easier for people to get condoms from them. So you have a group here getting money from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development, going to join this coalition, possibly using Catholic dollars while they're a part of this coalition to unlock condoms for people.
And what is the reaction? What are you hearing from people who come across this material?
Most of the time I hear shock when people first come across this material. And then a lot of times we hear the initial cry, we need to just eliminate the CCHD in its entirety, which is not what we're trying to do. We think that there can be reform done in the grants process.
But there is something here. There's a question that, again, I mentioned it earlier. At a time when you have, if we're concerned about the poor, I had Salesian sisters I met a few weeks ago. They've got schools that they are barely keeping open in inner cities. I can't think of a more important, wonderful way to support the poor in a community than giving them a Catholic education, because the values and the education is being imparted to them. What better foothold on the future could we give a poor child in a community than that? But Catholic Campaign for Human Development doesn't fund those sorts of efforts, right?
Their own criteria.
No direct services.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So what are they funding? What are these groups? How are they addressing poverty then?
Well, they state that they're addressing the root causes of poverty, but we have to go back and look at the entire question of what is authentic Catholic human development. And you know, if you're reading the recent encyclicals by Benedict XVI, you see that authentic human development addresses the entirety of man, all aspects of man, his spiritual nature, as well as the material side. And so when we see this, when we're going into this here, we see that the CCHD seems to be more, the groups that they're funding don't seem to have an actual authentic understanding of human development. I'm not condemning the CCHD of not having that. I don't know at this point. But these groups that they're funding, they're not Catholic groups. How do we know that they that they understand Catholic social doctrine? We don't have those assurances. That's why we're calling for, as part of reform of the grant process, that these groups publicly state that they're in total conformity with Catholic social doctrine and also the pro-life issues.
How do you unearth this information? I mean, is this available in public? You just go through the grantee list on the CCHD website?
Yeah, the CCHD grants list is on their own website. We just took a look at some of the grantees and went to their own websites to see what they're doing. And this is the thing that really perplexes me, because if we can just go to their own websites to see what these organizations are about, to see what they're doing, to see what they're involved in, and we can find this information, why can't their screeners? And the only conclusions that I can come to is either they're incompetent or they're complicit.
That's a heavy charge. So we're going to, in the coming weeks, I want to stay on this story, and I'd like to invite some Catholic Campaign for Human Development officials on. Let them respond to this and see what's going on. I want to give them a fair shake here too.
That would be great.
But you are talking then. There is some conversation happening.
Yes, there is some avenues of communication open, and that's a good thing.
And again, you believe that this boycott will be successful?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Is this to get the attention of officials? Is that what you're trying to do by withholding these funds, or asking people to withhold their funds?
I think it's twofold. I think, number one, we want to help people be informed so that they know exactly what their Catholic dollars could be going to. And we are definitely trying to get their attention, because we know that people have been trying to tell the CCHD for years that they're funding organizations that are involved in anti-Catholic activities, and they've gone largely ignored.
Very good. We will leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. The Catholic Campaign for Human Development collection is on November 22nd. For more information, you can visit www.Bellarmine Veritas Ministry. It's all one word. You can see it on the screen, .org, or reformcchdnow.com. You can get more information there. Once again, thank you, gentlemen.